Luke.
Hey, Ellen.
We need to talk.
Those could have been anyone's Beyblades. So I'll see you in court, I'll deny it.
I meant about Horizon Forbidden West and how it was sorely overlooked.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Show of the weekend, show of the weekend, show of the weekend, show of the weekend, show of the weekend.
So, Beyblades. You're lucky I don't really care about. We never got into Beyblades. I was more of the...
More fool you.
Yeah. I was more of a Pogs person myself.
Yes. While you stacked Pogs, I studied the blade. The Beyblade.
They're back in fashion again now. That's wild.
Beyblades?
Yeah. I very recently talked to an 8-year-old relative who's got Beyblades. And he's like, they're cool. And I'm like...
You're like, no then. Get real.
I know an adult who still likes them. Nerd.
Full disclosure, I don't own any Beyblades. I never have. I just find them so funny.
Yeah.
Intrinsically. Anyway,
I wanted to bring forward a game into the conversation here on the lovely sofa.
yes, into our conversational bubble.
So,
What game?
Horizon Forbidden West.
Ah, yes, I remember it well.
Well, the thing is, do you?
No, actually, I don't.
Really? Because
Yeah, it's the one where, Rise Tarnished. You walk out into the open world and the tree sentinel's right there. You follow the rune up to Stormvale Castle. Yeah, I remember.
No, yeah. See,
Was it right?
basically, it came out, as we know, at the same time as Elden Ring,
Yes.
which you're confusing it with.
Yes, I am.
And
Sorry.
we split the workload, thinking ahead.
yeah.
We were like, great. Luke does all the Elden Ring things. Ellen does all the Horizon Forbidden West things.
Yeah.
We'll make loads of videos. It's great. And then everyone watched his videos, not mine, because no one cared about Horizon Forbidden West, and I'm still mad about it.
Well, your successes are my successes and vice versa. It's our channel.
Yes.
We work on it jointly.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
So I did still benefit from those many views on the Elden Ring videos.
And I still suffered from What a burden for me to carry. It's interesting though, isn't it? Horizon Forbidden West. I feel like it occupies an interesting place now.
Yes.
In the video game meta. The sort of like discussion, the narrative that we've all settled on about the Horizon games.
Yes, well, going to my many, many notes about how good the game is and how you all like it.
How many?
Not quite as long as your Breath of the Wild ones, but close. I should say Tears of the Kingdom, sorry. But speaking of Breath of the Wild...
Yeah. Oh, fine.
One of
Great.
one of the problems that this series has had is that it's a big open world game that has released it, around the same time as other big open world games that have been sort of like game changers. So you've got Breath of the Wild, which
came out at the same time as the first Horizon game.
As Zero Dawn, and then Forbidden West basically was very soon after Elden Ring. Kind of slightly got overlooked in both cases because I think Zelda did something so different compared to the series and executed an open world game really well, and then again Elden Ring was like brand new one in a FromSoft kind of like series of games that everyone's much beloved, also kind of made changes to open world stuff,
blew the series wide open to a whole new audience, unbelievably flexible in how you approach it, really mysterious, really intriguing,
and
really
now
compelling.
The new DLC for Forbidden West, Burning Shores, is out, and Tears of the Kingdom is out now. I am someone who
all is well.
Loved the game,
Yeah.
and I've been busy in the last few days, and then I'm like, well, now Zelda's out, so I've got to play Zelda, haven't I? Sorry, I'll come back to you, Burning Shores, and that's if someone could maybe just have their games not come out in April. I think maybe the games could have got a little bit more of a spotlight if they'd come out in September, closer to Christmas time. And I'm very intrigued as to why they've kind of gone for this window.
So you've completed both Horizon games, right?
Yes.
And really, really enjoyed them.
I loved them.
I played about maybe I want to say a third of the first game, which was a fair amount. And I bounced quite quickly off the second game.
Right.
A big part of that was Elden Ring sort of consuming my
Yes.
life and soul.
Yes.
On the one hand, you do have this sort of joke. There's a kind of video game culture joke, isn't
Yes.
there? That like the Horizon games consistently come out at the same time.
At the same time as huge, big, game-changing
Huge, big,
open world
game-changing
games
open
that
world
are
game.
basically kind of in a similar area.
Yeah, and that Horizon sort of lives in the shadow of those games.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me about that is that I feel, and I suppose this is probably what you want to sort of get into, I feel like the narrative that we've all settled on, and I, correct me if I'm wrong, but this sort of feels right to me, that like the Horizon games have come to represent something that we, as the video game community, don't like anymore, right? In that it's a sort of big open world game with lots of crafting, lots of skill trees, lots of climbing up a tall thing to expose new areas of the map.
Often referred to as Ubisoftification
Ubisoftification.
within gaming circles, because Ubisoft is very guilty of this.
Yeah.
All of their games basically became the same game
Yeah.
for about a 5-year period, and everyone went kind of like,
Hang on.
could you do something else, please?
Yeah. This is not my own opinion. I'm just trying, I think, to articulate what I feel like is the sort of narrative around the Horizon
Yes.
games. And that's that games like Breath of the Wild and games like Elden Ring are a bold auteur works of visionary brilliance that we love and appreciate. And they shine a light on how safe and bland and conventional games like the Horizon games are. Do you think that is a fair assessment of how people in general, again, not me, feel about the Horizon games?
No.
No, but you don't.
I agree that that's how people feel, and I disagree with
Right.
them.
Okay, cool. So Horizon's been no, this is good. So Horizon's got a bum rap.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
It's really difficult because a lot of the things that Horizon does really well,
Yeah.
you don't really get your head around them unless you've actually played some of the games and gotten into it. It made some really fun changes in terms of like one of the main differences, the coolest things that it did with, you got to climb a tower, but you got to climb a tower in Zelda. But, Zelda made it fewer, didn't make it as like you have to do this all the time. It didn't, it wasn't like be all and end all. In Horizon, those towers were living creatures like robotic, huge giraffes, the tall necks,
Yeah.
that were constantly on the move. So you had a really unique climbing puzzle every single time. So you had to look around your environment, find things, and it really encouraged you to take in more of what Guerrilla had built. And I really enjoyed that. The first game, at least, wasn't littered with as many collectibles. Now I have done I'm here defending the games, but I did do like a 24-minute video on all the things that I would like to change in the second game, because I felt like they had started to slip further into kind of like let's do skill trees.
Should we call it
Here's all
Ubisoftification?
The Ubisoftification,
Which we acknowledge is a broad term.
It's a broad term,
but a useful one,
but a very
because I think
useful
we
one.
all sort of get what that means.
Yeah, and so like most of my things were like, this is just filled up with collectibles. So like they added the cool thing where you have a stash, so that the problem with you had a problem in the first game where your thing was filled up, or your inventory was filled up, and then you were like, okay, I've got to go and sell off a load of things. They added the stash so that you didn't have to worry about that, but they also added a bunch of other extra collectibles and extra crafting, and like if you needed to upgrade a particular outfit, you needed a very specific thing from a specific robot that was really difficult to get, and it was just by the time you got it, there was no point in having it because you'd already leveled up so much to be able to get that thing. And yeah,
You're right.
there are issues with that, and that's an issue that's found in a lot of games.
I think you'd
to
better
be
move.
honest.
I think you'd better move quite quickly on to
But-
things why it's good.
But while it's really good,
Yeah.
okay, what it has really, that's going for it, it's like the story is really cool. The stories in this game, like in this series, are wild. And like, I sort of, when the game first came out, I tried very hard to get you to play it and finish the story.
I think I stopped at exactly the wrong point.
The story really opens up as you go further west and you meet some new characters. Do you mind if I spoil it a little bit?
No.
Okay, wild spoilers. I'll skip forward a couple of minutes if you want to avoid this. Basically, there's people who escaped the Earth who are now coming back from space.
Dang.
And and then
cool.
there's a whole I don't want to go into too many spoilers, but
I didn't know that.
there's right
Oh.
and there's so many new characters who are very interesting. You get to meet some familiar faces, but you meet a lot of new characters. There's people who have traveled across from kind of the area of Asia, like Japan, Korea, who live around that area, and they've moved across to explore, and they've landed on the West Coast, and they're really interesting, and they have a completely different kind of way that society is built because they found technology. There's a weird kind of king-like guy who's an asshole, and they really make you very quickly hate him, but then something hilarious happens and you're like, yes, thank you, game. There's so many moments in this story which is oh my gosh, spill the tea, oh my goodness, this is amazing. What an actually jaw-dropping moments where you're I'm sorry, what? And it could have so easily jumped the shark, but it didn't. It jumped a big robotic dinosaur and looked cool doing it, okay? Even in the first game, you're like, wait, what? She's a clone of this, and what? And they did what? And there was what? And they continue that momentum in the second game.
That's cool.
So I never knew where it was going next. There are some really cool new designs in some of the monsters as well.
That's cool. And I didn't know that about the story being good. I sort of, just
it's a slow burner, I think, is a bit of a shame, but also, I get it.
But it's tough, isn't it? Because when a game's story is really good, you want to tell people it's good, but you can't tell people why it's good because it's a spoiler. And the whole point of you're trying to persuade people to give something a shot. It's one of the most frustrating things for it to be good about a game. I'm sure we've all been in this position where you've been trying to persuade a friend to watch a TV show or a movie.
Please play the game because I want to talk
read
to you
some
about
books.
this thing that happens right near the end. And you're like, what? And
I don't know, I have to craft a lot of arrows.
that's why my video is just get rid of this thing so we can focus on this thing.
But the
Just
world...
needs to be slow down. But the world
is
gorgeous.
The bit that you know, even if you haven't played the games, or if you've only played them a little bit like I have, is that aesthetically, there's a lot to enjoy there.
Oh my goodness. That's another thing I want to say that's great
animal
about this.
designs
It's gorgeous.
are really fun.
The
And
designs,
fighting them.
yeah,
So satisfying.
It's the systems that they have where you scan it, you see the weaknesses, and they've built upon that in the second game to a brilliant degree. So
I have very fond memories of knee sliding and pulling my bow to go into slow motion.
Yeah.
And while a sort of monster was jumping at me and being kind of bullseyeing it right in its stupid robot liver or something.
Yeah,
parts will fly off.
even if you're not doing particularly well, you always look cool doing it.
Yeah.
Because the way that Aloy is animated, the way the movement's animated, and also looking cool. This game, just as an aside, has one of the best photo modes in any game that I've played.
I remember that as well,
And I
yeah.
had a lot of fun. Here are some of my pictures. I wouldn't... Thanks. And I know someone who is a professional photographer who was like, this is brilliant. The amount of detail that you can play. If you know what you're doing, you can do cool shots. Even if you don't know what you're doing, you can get cool shots.
Yeah.
But also just the design of the world, going back to that, everything is so lush and green in the foresty areas, but there's so much biodiversity in the games, and we've got these different biomes, and there's always little secrets hidden away in these things. So there's one where you go out to a desert, then you follow the main quest a little bit, and then you go underneath the desert to find an underwater filled up area that is part of an an indoor mall of Vegas Strip kind of thing. So you go underneath and there's just like casinos and you're just swimming around.
Dang.
And you have to do like a puzzle swimming around. And it's one of the best water levels. I know some people hate water levels, but it's one of the best water levels in any game ever.
Oh.
And I think that even people who hate water levels would possibly enjoy it. Also, since they've added an update recently for those with thalassophobia, if I'm saying that correctly, which is a fear of deep water.
Yeah.
You can't drown, you can see further, so there's nothing going to be like whoa, out of the darkness at you. They've really put a lot of thought into that as well. It was a shame that wasn't out when it was released, because I know there were a lot of people who were like, oh cool, and then all the reviews were like, there's an amazing water level, and they went, oh no.
I'm finding this stuff frustrating to hear, because my gaming habits at the moment have been very, very like on my consoles. I'm doing like Soulsborne stuff.
Yes.
And
I mean, we're all very Soulsborne at the moment.
And on my
t-shirt
PC,
as well.
I'm only playing racing games. If you can even call them games, I dispute that they are games, really.
There's racing.
And on my Steam Deck, I'm playing a lot of indie games.
Cool indie games,
but they tend to be like tone poems, or like, you know, it's like, or a really clever Metroidvania or something. And actually, there is not an awful lot in my gaming life right now of like a straightforward story. So actually, when you describe a cool story, I'm like, that sounds good. And then when you talk about swimming through an underwater casino, I'm like, that sounds really cool. But I'm struggling to get over an aversion that I have to, you know, like
huge open world games that are a little bit overwhelming.
It's not that the world is big, I guess. It's just the sort of like collecting things of different colours.
Yes, yeah. Well, the thing is, it's a shame. I think
scrap metal.
The Horizon games.
Sticks.
The Horizon games are fantastic linear games hidden within open world games.
Speak on that. That's interesting to me.
So basically, like, if you just like mainline the story quests, it's great. And like, there's fun side quests that aren't like too hideous. Like, there's still like a lot of like, hey, I need, 7 of this fetch quests or whatever. But overall, like, usually even within those fetch quests, there's like an interesting story behind it. So like, they'll be like, okay, so like we sent a bunch of people up there and they never came back. Can you go up there and check what's happening now? And you go up and then like, really, it's a fetch quest in disguise. And like, there's usually a lot of those side quests are world building. So don't completely write off the side quests. But mainlining the story, like, it is so cool. And it's just like a solid, interesting story. It sends you across the West, it sends you west, you gradually explore this world and meet new people, and I think even if you don't really touch the sides of anything else, you're not particularly missing out on much if you don't have time to do a deep dive into everything. Like, you'll have like people like me who are like, well, I want this costume and I want to be able to go over here and dye it 3 different colours, but like otherwise you can just go for it.
One thing I remember Horizon Zero Dawn doing quite well was you would arrive in a new area and it would be like a big city, and you would have like one sort of main hero quest in that city.
Yes.
And like, then you would start to pick up little quests and little hints about like a new place over there. So you'd still be primarily there, but the game would start kind of like blurring very gently, blurring your objectives into this sort of new area. So it did that nice open world thing. I think of like Skyrim did this particularly well. As like you'd be adventuring and questing in an area, but you'd kind of have in mind like, oh, I've had this next area sort of teased. Yeah. So that when you got there, it really felt momentous. It really felt like an adventure to kind of go to the next area. Yeah. And you'd be like, right, I'm done here. Yeah. I'm packing my bag. I'm going to the more difficult zone. Yeah. I feel like I'm ready.
Yeah.
you know,
And it
which
does,
is cool.
it absolutely does that really well in Forbidden West as well. You really felt like spurred on, and that you felt like you knew sort of what to expect, but they'd, dipped a little enough mystery there that you were like, ooh, the way that kind of misinformation, slight misinformation of like, oh, I have heard tales of such and how scary, and then you get there and you actually
that's not the whole
learn more
truth.
about it. It's not the whole
Yeah,
truth.
yeah.
So even though you're kind of getting it teased, you feel like you learn new things as you arrive. I did a video about all the cool things, the differences between the first game and this game, and I still stand by those points. I think that there were a lot of quality of life changes between the first and second game that made it different. And there was like kind of the things that I didn't like were like the too much open world nonsense, too much Ubisoftification around what is essentially a really, really good, solid game that has some interesting characters, amazing fights, like the robots, as we said, are fantastic. Gorgeous environments that every single time I got to a new place, it was like, ooh, I am excited and surprised to see what I'll find here. And, so many cool things for Aloy to do. And also, again, just to reiterate points that I've made in previous videos, Aloy is just like a super cool character to go through this world with.
Yeah.
Just very cool, capable, and quite funny as well with her interactions with various people. So, yeah.
With the benefits of hindsight, and with the sort of dust and these kind of meta narratives of what games are good and what's in favour and what's out of favour.
Yeah.
The video maybe we should have made is why you should play Horizon Forbidden West instead of Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Because I think there are reasons. I think that you've made a very compelling case, I think. Because I love Elden Ring dearly, very, very dearly.
I mean, I've not played Elden Ring, so this is.
And
sounds
in some way, it's like, why are we even, just because they came out at the same time? Why are we talking about these two things together? But but they're both such big games.
Yeah.
And people only have so much time. So really, with these sort of big AAA open world games, the air is very thin at the top. So you don't want to play the second best one, if it's going to take you 200 hours, I think most people aren't going to play both of these games. Most people probably don't have time for any of them. So even though it feels a bit facetious to compare Horizon and Elden Ring and Breath of the Wild, I do think that they are the games that are competing for your 200 hours.
Yes.
My 200 hours are so precious.
Yeah.
But what you say about the story, you do not get that in Elden Ring. Lush environments, you don't get them in Elden Ring.
No.
Scary environments, atmospheric environments, unpleasant environments.
Yeah.
But lushness, a sort of inventiveness about that kind of post-apocalyptic sort of stuff.
It's
You're not really served in that way.
Yeah, it's one of the most unique.
Cool combat that
Things.
where you feel like a badass and not feel like a tiny ant getting stabbed all the time.
If you have time now, instead of playing Elden Ring for the third or fourth time, which I know a lot of people will probably be doing now, give Horizon Forbidden West a shot, and try and there's a little bit of Ubisoftification around,
Shrug it off.
Just
Shrug it off.
you don't have to I got into it so that I could look at it critically and think about what would I do differently, blah blah blah, and because I wanted to platinum the game as well, which I did. But you don't have to get into all that, and you can still have an amazing experience where I laughed, I cried, my jaw hit the floor a couple of times. I was like, oh my goodness. What are they doing? Where is this going? I don't know, but I am completely in for this. I'm on for the ride. I'm in for the ride.
Awesome. It's not always clear, is it, when you start a game, what stuff you have to do to enjoy it properly and get the most out of it, and what stuff you can effectively ignore.
Yeah.
When I played Forbidden West and I bounced off all of the sort of collecty, crafty, skill tree and million menus, I felt like I don't really enjoy this stuff, and I think I'm going to have a hard time with the game if I don't engage with it. But so it's very interesting to hear that stuff is a bit more optional, than you might
The thing
assume.
is, if you're an Elden Ring fan, you don't mind it being a bit tougher, and it's not annoyingly tough at any point. And then, like, basically, if you don't feel strong enough going into the next main quest, do a side quest, because then you're still getting delicious story, world building stuff that I thoroughly enjoyed, because there's a lot of interesting lore around the different tribes of the West, and just the history, and there's a lot of things, the ancient history that is basically what happened during the apocalypse. It's really very deep. It's very deep, especially the water level.
Is that the whole reason we did this show the weekend? Was it all leading up to that?
No, it wasn't. I just thought of that because,
Right off the dome.
yeah.
Damn.
Elden Ring fans will be like, I love the music of Elden Ring. You'll also love the music of Horizon Forbidden West. Like, on the way into the studio before filming this, I was like, as I make my notes, I'm going to sit and listen to the Horizon Forbidden West track.
Lovely. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, you feel so pumped up when you get into these fights, and yeah, it's great. As you gradually unlock like these fun skills, there's some things I would like, little tweaks that I would like to make about, when you unlock things and how things are utilised, but it's minutiae, like it's little teeny things compared to the overall experience that I had with the game. That was fantastic. Just mainline, do some side quests, have a great time with Aloy and all the new characters that you meet.
You've got your homework, folks. Go play the Horizon games.
But yeah, like I think that this game was sorely overlooked, and Horizon Forbidden West deserved better, and what it deserves is your time, having a fun time in the game, basically.
All right, you've got your homework, folks.
Oh my goodness.
Ellen says go play the Horizon games.
Yeah, please do. And like you get to a bit where you kind of like have a little home base.
Okay.
And all the characters are really cool.
Okay, good. Right. How long have we been recording, John?
34 minutes.
That's okay, I'll stop. But I go play it, it's really good. It's really good though. The story, like, there's minutes from like, and I'm like, and then I'm like, and it's great.